Hello and welcome to Up at Noon Live. I'm Brian Altano. With me is Max Scoville and Mike Drucker. How you guys doing?
Hello. I'm all right. I just scratched my back.
Is Max frozen, like, with his eyes closed?
That's all right. There's two of us.
Well, so we didn't want to make a big deal about this, but over the weekend, Max was replaced with a Madame Tussauds wax museum version of Max. We left him lovingly in his old bedroom, and we wanted to keep him going because Max has actually been missing for a long time. He actually went out to the store for pretzels and never came back. So we're doing everything we can. This is a wax museum, Max Scoville, and I think it's going to work out, honestly. The problem is we're expecting very high heat this weekend, so he could turn into a puddle man.
This should be his in memoriam photo if he dies. Just like eyes closed.
You know, I gotta say, Mike, I'm very happy that we finally got rid of the guys with the good hair on the show. We cut it down to the balls. I think that's what the ladies and the fellas are here to see. It's also, this is the first time we've had a guest on for a full hour, and it's actually really helpful because one of my regular co-host is dead. So. Right, Max?
Oh man.
Let's go live to Max to see what he has to say right now. I've been doing big dunks and poops all day long. I went out for pretzels and I went to the gas station to do a big diarrhea and I pooped and I did a poop and a piss inside my car and I'm very sick and it's horrible. Back to you, boys.
Say nothing if you're a big old idiot. Oh no! Oh wait, he's back.
He's
right, back.
You doing a show?
Yes.
I want to set the building on fire. Can this week be over yet? We're live, right? Yeah.
We're live for a few minutes. Actually, you were frozen, so I created an elaborate backstory that you were replaced by a Madame Tussauds mannequin version of yourself.
Mike, I'm so glad you're here. This would be a lot worse. This would just be sad. It would be Brian talking to a JPEG of me. How's it going, everybody?
We're going good.
Did you guys hear me yelling at my cat before we went live?
No.
Okay, that's good, I guess. Yeah, I know. Like everything's been on fire. They just switched me over to one of those cool new laptops that has 4 plugs on it, that none of which plug into anything I own, and all of the settings are different. And my Wi-Fi decided to stop working, and then I ran upstairs to get something, and I came back down, and the cat just ran right up the stairs directly under my foot, and I almost fell down the stairs. And then my internet froze. Anyway, happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Up at Noon live at 5. One of the only shows in history that was moved to Friday night, not because it was canceled, but it was given a second chance. That's usually the opposite of what happens on TV. With us today is Mike Drucker, a very, very awesome old friend of ours, and also the original lead writer of Up at Noon. You wrote on this show in 2011?
2012. 2012. Before, 2012
Great movie.
Before I realized I could get paid actual money. So, 2012.
Neither of us have learned that yet. It's good to have you back. I was actually texting you today. I want to put together some sort of like Up at Noon reunion at some point and get Greg Miller and Nick Scarpino on. So I'll bother those guys as soon as we're not putting out fires at the last second. Max, I believe, is either really interested in this or frozen. So periodically throughout this episode, for those of you watching at home, Max might get replaced with a Madame Tussauds wax version of himself. So
it's actually a good photo of him. Like, it's a good freeze.
Yeah, no, he's an extremely he's a very photogenic man. So when he freezes, it's not the worst problem, you know.
I think I'm alive again.
Like there's like 7 years of me on picture day where they told me to sit still and it didn't look that good, you know. Like those were days that you had to dress up for.
I'm just gonna start freezing, like even without my internet. I'm just gonna
like
everybody.
It's the worst bit. Terrible.
This is absolutely terrifying. Anyway, Max, you want to plug the John Wick thing? I forgot to do research on it.
Okay, at 7 o'clock tonight on IGN's channel, the one that you're probably watching this on, we're going to be streaming John Wick, the movie where Keanu Reeves fights a bunch of guys, does gun stuff, and that it's not like one of those ones where you have to download it and sync it up. It's just they're just going to stream John Wick, and it's for charity or something. It's probably some dog charity. I don't know, or it's like out of work actors. It's something. It's great. It's helping everybody. You can watch John Wick for free. All you have to do is sit where you're sitting, like this.
Like a dog.
And just wait for John Wick to show up and save the day.
Really selling this John Wick movie thing.
Yeah,
that was the worst commercial for John Wick.
If you guys want to watch it, you can. I really get it. If you don't want to, it's all cool. I get.
They might give money to dogs. They might take it away. We don't even know. I mean,
yeah. I did some of the research for it. Good God.
He froze again. My research for that was when you're in school and you didn't read the paper and you go, yeah, I didn't do it, and they just go, oh, you get an F. But Max was like, I did it, but he didn't. Let's take a look at our studio audience. Can we look at our studio audience right now? They're having a great time. It looks like gamerstockphoto.jpg.
Can you imagine if I wasn't here and you just had to vamp for like 30 minutes on this?
You know what I would do, actually? I think I would just close my laptop and go outside. I would be like, I would just see what happens. Maybe the show will figure itself out. I would just walk all the way out to the beach and just walk into the sea and just never return.
Just rocks in your pockets, end of the novel, die.
Yeah. I mean, for priority, every single week we do this show on Discord, and that's been working out so far for about 7 weeks. But our producer Alexio this week was just like, I have a double Jeopardy challenge for you boys. What if we shook it up a little bit?
Well, no. On the bright side, this was like a super. We were actually really busy this week, and a bunch of things were different, like the new computer setups and dealing with new wires and stuff. So it was really. It's all wrong. It's all very bad. What are we talking about? Honestly, like I keep like coming, like I duck out and then you come back and you're like, class picture day was a treat. And then I come back and you're like, we got a pocket full of rocks. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
We're talking about the Matrix.
Yeah.
I love the Matrix.
If you stick around after this and you walk to your TV and you put on the Matrix, you can watch the Matrix.
That's a good point.
Man. Anyway, this has been a wonderful week. I'll handle it from here, Max. Yeah, you be a good dog and sit.
We had a lot of fun here tonight. It's been a great show. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks a lot, guys. If you want to find out more, head down to the bottom part of your building where you live and look at the garbage. I'm trying to find a good segue.
If you head to the nearest window and look outside, if you see more than one thing, you can count those things. That's one way to pass the time.
Yeah, that's very good. You could do the shuttle run that I've been doing, which is walk to the window and look outside, and then walk to the keyhole and look through the keyhole, and then just pretend you'll see something interesting, and you never do. Love to be home forever. Anyway,
like a mansion in 1800.
What do you call the thing on the door that lets you see the hall?
Like a peephole. The keyhole, I think, like you're like spying on like a countess.
Yeah, but peephole has a bad connotation to it.
Yeah, so does looking through one compulsively.
Well, you're right. Looking through the keyhole is
the keyhole is like
the eyes.
No, it's like a Nicolas Cage movie poster. It's just like a giant keyhole with like a pyramid on the other side.
Oh my god.
Anyway, I have no way on earth to possibly segue to the thing I wanted to talk to you about today, Mike. So I'll just get right into it. You're writing a book about Silent Hill 2, which is awesome.
I am. Thank you. I am writing it for Boss Fight Books.
That's right.
I'm writing it for Boss Fight Books. We I've been a big fan of. I have none of this prepared, and I really should have prepared to say something. I really like Boss Fight Books, which has done a ton of books about video games, and I started talking with the guy who runs it, and they were like, "Do you want to do one?" And I was like, "Yes." And they were like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Parappa the Rapper." And they were like, "Do you know anything about music?" And I was like, "No." And so they were like, "Do you have any other choices if you know nothing about the history of rap music or Japan?" And so I was like, Silent Hill 2. And they went with that. Because I do know about sadness.
Okay. Yeah, so like another friend of ours, Alexa Correa, wrote one about Kingdom Hearts, I think. Like,
Yeah.
and I was talking to her about it, and I was like, so how do you write that? And apparently, you just is it just like you have to ask to write one, and they're like, do you know about that? And they like, so what's your frame of reference for Silent Hill? I guess like how did you, aside from sadness?
Silent Hill is a game that I played in high school. I played the first one and the second one in high school. The first one, like early high school. The second one, I think senior year of high school, because it came out around 9/11. Anyway, that's not a way to reference that. But Silent Hill 2 came out around 9/11. Everybody, happy holidays. So
Nice work.
I played that a lot in high school.
2 9/11s in the first 15 minutes of the show. Nice work. That's an up and noon.
You had an 1822. So I played it a lot in high school, and then I played it on PS2 in high school, and then it came out on PC. And in college, I was really into PC gaming because I was lonely, and so I played it again on the PC. And I've played it probably every year, every other year. And so it's one of my favorite games, and it was really fun to get a chance to like write about it and explore it, and to feel afraid that the internet would be mad at me about it.
No, because it's a book, and that's a lot.
You can't. The cool thing about books is that you can't leave comments on them unless you just write in them. You know, like you can leave mean Amazon reviews, but like you can just look at the book and be like, "Oh, look at that! No comments, just the pages, beautiful." What?
So, in terms of putting a book like this together, do you basically, is it sort of a dissertation on why it's awesome, or like a little bit of developmental history, like a little bit of everything?
I do. I would say it's sort of 1/4 developmental history and 1/4 sort of like an analysis of the story and the characters and how the gameplay ties into the story, because to me, Silent Hill 2 still has one of the best stories of any video game. And then 1/4 of it kind of talks about things like the remasters and different versions of the game, and how the game is, as of right now, still unavailable. There's always rumors that Konami is about to do something useful, but you never know about that. So it's sort of about how, like, it's this fascinating part of video game history because it's a super well-known game. It's a very popular game. It's more popular now than it was when it was released. But unless you know how to, mod the PC version or you emulate it, there's no actual way to get your hands on it. I mean, the HD remaster if you have an Xbox 360, but that's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's like something sort of enduring about a horror game from this era, because it's like the games like this age differently than, I'd say, like 3D platformers or first-person shooters, in that they've been so usurped by their sort of modern equivalents. But something about this being like freakishly low res, by 2020 standards, is really creepy, in the same way that when you go back and play the original Resident Evil, which sort of is similar in the way it kind of marries campiness with horror. Do you think that's a big part of its legacy? Is that it's like it ages differently than something like Croc?
Well, Croc is my other book for Boss Fight Books, and so it's about a crocodile. I think horror works well, sort of in retrospect. That's why for 10 or 15 years, people really loved those horror movies that looked like they were shot on VHS, because there's something creepy about the past and something more authentic. And games like Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2 and the original Resident Evil, they feel weirdly haunted now because they look aged, but they move slowly. Also, a lot of, there should be something said about the character design in these games. It's very good. And the darkness helps as well. Like, if this was a bright, bouncy world like Banjo-Kazooie, it probably would be a little less well remembered. But
that was one of the things that the HD remaster screwed up, right? Is it got rid of a bunch of the fog, which like lent so much to the atmosphere.
Right. It's almost like if like the Blair Witch Project did a remaster where they just like removed all of the VHS static and you realize it's just a shitty movie about dumb people.
Oh God, I totally want to see a Blair. I want to see a Blair Witch where they digitally stabilize it. Like I want them to just turn off the shaky cam in Blair Witch. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry if I'm not allowed to swear, you guys. I didn't. I didn't ask.
We don't care.
No,
it's fine.
Right. Yeah, we don't care.
Watch John Wick after this.
Yeah, check that out. They kill people in that movie, and we're going to put that on the site so we can say shit. A thing I love about this game is the character models are like looking at them now. It's almost like that Bram kid from that horror movie. Like they're almost like this. They have this like weird waxy clay look to them that I think adds to the sort of inherent creepiness. Like for the further and further we get away from it, this doesn't really look as wonky as say. Like I would say like something like Deadly Premonition, I think takes a lot of the DNA of what makes Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2 so impressive and then moves it a little bit more towards sort of absurd. Whereas Silent Hill 2 is a little bit more grounded, I would say. Like it's not because it's still ridiculous, but it feels sort of more tangible.
It definitely feels a little more tangible. And again, I think it's like the dirtiness of it. It's sort of like think of something like old Star Wars movies. They always felt more real because the world was kind of dirty. Like everything felt worn in and used. And that gives things a sense of reality. Whereas if you look at something like the prequels or even some of the newer movies, everything is so shiny and like unblemished that you're like, oh, all of this looks cleanly rendered. So that's definitely. I will say though, Silent Hill 2 has some weird wackiness to it. Like there's a scene where there's a trivia game in there. That's like this weird horror trivia game that happens, and it's like different trivia about the game. There's the dog ending. There's the weird, bizarre UFO ending. So it does have some absurdity built in.
You're a comedian. You're a funny dude. Like, and you're writing about one of the most bleak and terrifying games possible. Is your book humorous? Like, you slipping some jokes in there, funny man?
Honestly, my answer was it was, and then I had to cut out like 30,000 words because it's a small book. And I was like, I'll just cut out the jokes because the jokes take up too much space. So I'm going to try to add some jokes back in the next draft, but I would say it's a little more serious than you might be used to from me for the two people who care. But I hope it's good. Like I tried to take it seriously. I didn't try to. Well, one thing is I wanted it to be funny, but at the same time, I wanted to take the game serious enough to actually value it as a fan. I didn't want to just seem like I was like messing around to make fun of the game. So it's a mixture. I try to have jokes in there, but I definitely take the game seriously.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not. You're not the first. You're not the first like funny person to write one of these books. Like Anthony Birch wrote the one for Metal Gear Solid, and he's known for doing like sketch comedy and stuff. So it's
Yeah, I recently read the boss fight books for NBA Jam by Rayan Ali. I don't know if you checked that one out. It's really awesome. What I love about those books in general is that they are sort of hyper minimalist in their typography and presentation cover wise, but they're also sort of pocket size. Like you can kind of throw them in your back pocket and get on the bus back when we used to do those things. And they're super consumable. Like they're short enough to just kind of like plow through in a weekend. And I dig them for that. And so, that kicks ass. Did you have to do any like extensive research, like reaching out to people who worked on it?
I reached out to a couple people who've done academic work on it. I had little trouble hunting down like actual producers of it. A lot of them are scattered to the wind. But a lot of it, like a lot of the book relies on research that was saved by fan sites, like the Reddit Silent Hill community. There's a ton of different, other fan communities that have like old articles from magazines that have disappeared and they have them transcribed. So this is one of those weird books where, like, I know everyone's always like, I wouldn't be able to do this without the fan community, but literally half of my research came from fans who preserved the history of this game.
No, that's awesome. Because I imagine, to be blunt, I can't imagine that like a lot of Konami executives would be extremely forthcoming about development when it comes to this stuff. I mean, I would say that video games in general have a massive problem with sort of transparency when it comes to like their directors and developers and producers coming out after the fact and saying, hey, here's what we wanted to do, here's what we got wrong. You see that a lot in film, you see that a lot in TV, in music as well. Video games still really haven't gotten there, and especially Japanese video games are historically sort of tight-lipped, and like, you know, the PR is very buttoned up. And so yeah, like I commend you for kind of going around everything and digging through the archives and finding what you could find, because a lot of I don't imagine a lot of people would just come out and say, oh yeah, this guy in America is writing a book at Silent Hill. I'm sure it's gonna be great. Here's our docs, you know. Here's everything.
Yeah. There is like a documentary, the making of Silent Hill 2, that was released with, I want to say, the European version. I don't have it in front of me, but you can find it on YouTube, and it's like an hour-long documentary about the game. Now, it's very PR-y, like it's not like a no-holds-barred documentary. It's clearly like to sell the game and to promote the game, but it still was kind of useful to see like information about the game while it was being developed.
Yeah, which is extremely rare, you know, out of Japan. You don't really even see, like when I did a couple developer studio visits when I was in Tokyo for TGS in 2014, and most of their studios are stark white walls. There's not like, it's not like North American studios where there's concept art everywhere and there's like computer monitors everywhere. It's hyper minimalist. It's very like down, you know, just very blunt, and everyone's wearing suits, and you ask a question and they're like, oh, very good question, but we are focusing on the blah 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 at hand right now. And you're like, glad I got on an airplane for this, you know, like it's tough. So yeah, I commend that. In terms of getting the book, this was part of a Kickstarter?
There's a Kickstarter ongoing. You can just search on Kickstarter for Boss Fight Books Season 5. It's also, my book will be coming out at the end of this year, so it's not the first in the season. But when you back the Kickstarter, you basically get all the books, and you can get them digitally. They're great. They're such easy reads. They're also like, they're the kind of book that I like reading again on the bus. Like I liked reading on my phone because they were so simple and fast that you could just sort of flip through them. Yeah. So go to the Kickstarter. Please back the Kickstarter, and mine will come out in December, hopefully, if I finish my 6th draft.
Well, I mean, what do you got else to do?
I mean, I'm a head writer on a TV show as well, and
That's true.
And also I'm caring for a Tamagotchi and a Digimon, which is a lot now. I literally, when this started, people were posting photos of their children and dogs, and I broke out Nintendogs, a Tamagotchi, and a Digimon, and I gave up on Nintendogs because it was too much pressure.
Well, the problem is that the walks get really long.
They do, though.
They do.
It's a fake dog, and it wants your attention. And I'm like, you're not real.
Yeah, real. Actually, like I used to have a real dog. It's not like the older it got, the longer I had to walk it. You just go around the block.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Mike, that's awesome. Head on over to the Boss Fights Kickstarter. Just Google it and support Mike Drucker and all the other great people working on Boss Fights books. In the meantime, check out the NBA Jam one because it's a super quick read and it's really fun. And it gets into the like weird history of that game and why it got so big and famous and how on earth they got Bill Clinton in there illegally or whatever. In the meantime, yeah, right? Isn't that weird? There's like a lot of politicians in that game. I would love a new version of that had. I won't finish that sentence. Anyway, we got an awesome thing in the mail this week to celebrate Back to the Future, because there's no reason to never not celebrate Back to the Future. The fine folks at Playmobil are doing the kind of thing that I wish they had done when I was a kid and I bought Playmobil. And they are teaming up with a bunch of like incredibly cool brands. They did Ghostbusters, they did Willy Wonka, they're doing Scooby-Doo, and right now they are doing Back to the Future. And so they made a DeLorean with Marty and Doc and the dog and everything like that. And it lights up. It's a very involved kit. It's like Playmobil has gotten a lot more intense since I was a little kid. They have decals and they're full on, they're borderline Legos almost, like it came with a full on instruction manual. There's Max with his toy cam over there. So yeah, you've got Marty McFly.
what camera this is doing bad. But let's do the, can we do the light thing?
Yeah, sure. Hit the button.
Can you like Playmobil try to have sex with your mom in it too?
Yeah, so I'll get to that actually in a second.
That was in the movie,
that was in the movie. So it lights up, and it comes with Doc that Max just killed with the car, the dog, and it also comes with Marty McFly and his camera. And cool thing about that is they all fit inside the car. And as you can see right here, there's a little close up of Marty while Max is frozen. Yeah, he's got his little cufflinks. The car is awesome. The tires actually pop up and flatten out. And the whole thing lights up like I just showed you, and it even lights up on the inside, as you can see. On the back, you can pop this thing open and pull out these little guys, the horrible chemicals, the plutoniums. It also comes with Doc Brown's little case, which pops open, which I really dig. And this is $49.99. It comes out this month. Marty McFly also comes with his skateboard. There's a couple of images we have that I took earlier today. It's just like, I really love the colors on this thing. It really pops. It looks really awesome. It's got like a really good build quality. Again, I had Playmobil when I was a kid, but they're all like very it was like pirates and castles, very similar to Lego in that it took me to get old for them to start partnering with like a bunch of really cool big brands that I was really into. But yeah, I really dig this set. And on top of that, as you can see, we'll cycle through them here. There's also another set, which is $7.99, which is the 1955 edition of Doc and Marty, which is them with their, right here. As you can see, that's Marty McFly when he goes back to the 1950s, and he's got his guitar, and Doc with his weird oven mitt gloves and his funny shirt, and his newspaper that he's holding up, which I really dig, as you can see right there. Oh. His hair is ridiculous. I'm afraid to pull it off because like a lot of Playmobil, when you take off their hair, they have that hole in their head, which is kind of scary. But yeah, Marty McFly also comes with his skateboard, which is awesome right here. So yeah, that's all the toys, and Max has a Bud Light bottle cap there because he's a big town drunk.
Bud Light? You kidding me? It's an independent brewery making local beers. Anyway.
I'm sorry. You're wearing a Hawaiian shirt and backwards hat. How dare I?
It doesn't matter. No, I put the movie on last night just right after building this, and it's so good. It's such a perfect movie. Like it's so like I don't know. I feel like when you're a kid, every concept is kind of out there because you don't understand how the world works or like what is feasible or what isn't. But like the idea of like, oh yeah, it's a time travel romance adventure where they go back in time in a car. It's like I mean, the car was cool when it came out. It was like sort of like, I feel like that whole joke of the DeLorean, like I always knew of DeLoreans through Back to the Future, but I feel like at the time it was like if somebody was like, yeah, man, we got like a...
He froze.
Did he freeze?
Yeah, man, we got like a car that can travel through time. I have to say that like the most disappointing thing about DeLoreans in real life... I don't even know what it is. Yeah, DeLoreans in real life, the biggest bummer is that they don't have like these like sort of blue accents and lights and pipes and exposed nonsense. I know that's incredibly dangerous for like a real car to have, but like once I saw one of these cars in real life and I found that it didn't have any of this cool stuff on it, I was kind of let down. So I'm glad that the toys are keeping that going. Mike, what was your history with Playmobil? Did you have them at all when you were a kid? Were you European enough for that?
I didn't have Playmobil. I wasn't even much of a Lego kid. I think I was more like an action figure video game kid. Legos always felt, I like when I'd go to friends' houses and we'd play Legos, but Legos felt like a lot of work to me as a kid, and they feel like a lot of work to me now.
Right. No, I totally get that. It's weird because when I was a kid, my whole mom's side of the family was European, still is, and we would go to Europe a lot, and like I'd always be like, let's go to toy stores, and we'd get there and I'd be like, everything they have here is Playmobil. It's all Playmobil. Yeah. And I'd come back to America and it was like few and far between in the 80s and 90s for Playmobil. And so I'd go to Europe and buy Playmobil sets and come back and like explain it to my friends, and they'd be like, I don't get it. And I'm like, well, it's like they have legs, but they can only sit, and then they have like these funny hands, and if you take off their hair, there's like a hole in their head. But then there's a castle, and they were like, I don't get it. So it was always very weird. And then it like slowly made its way to America. And I remember Max and I were in a Toys R Us probably like 4 years ago, like right before the death of Toys R Us. And we went into there was a Playmobil section that was like 20 feet wide, and it just had like it just like bonkers amounts of kits, just like hundreds and hundreds of different sets. And then over the last few years,
the thing that Playmobil was always cool with that Lego wasn't was guns. So they would be like, we're doing cowboys. We're doing like, I mean, it was never like, military stuff, but they'd be like, hey, we're making a SWAT team. They've got like, here's like a anti-terrorist unit, which was kind of like, oh, this is like Lego doesn't do this. This is okay. We're getting a little bit gritty there.
Yeah, they would also do like, it'd be funny because it'd be like a SWAT team. It'd be like 2 feet from like the dolphin park at Toys R Us. So you're like, oh, there's a little something for everyone here at Playmobil. So yeah, these are available this month. $49.99 for the DeLorean and $7.99 for the Doc and Marty 1955 edition. Go check those out. We'll probably be talking about the Scooby-Doo set pretty soon, which includes a mystery machine and probably like illegal substances that those guys always drive around in. I don't know. It'll be a fun time. So in the meantime, speaking of getting packages in the mail, Max, what's going on outside? It's terrifying. And I feel like a game that a lot of people played last year and a lot of people were bored by last year has now just become our reality. And I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, so I think when Death Stranding came out, we were like, this is a sort of wackadoo concept. What a strange idea where you're a delivery man and everyone's stuck inside and nobody can go outside. And lo and behold, here we are in this actual horrible Brave New World. So like I was thinking about it,
right.
That like I played Death Stranding. I had mixed feelings about it, but I don't think I was like, it's a weird game. Like it's a strange game. But now it's real, and now we are in a fragmented America where everyone's stuck indoors, including Conan O'Brien and Jeff Keighley, who are both working from home and doing like Skype calls to communicate with each other. And people like delivery workers have to walk around out there, and if somebody tries to shake their hand, they're like, no. Which was what Sam Porter Bridges had to do. He was scared of cooties. He'd be like, I can't touch anyone. And it's all because there's some invisible threat that could all kill us, which, obviously it's not quite as exciting as like ghosts that leave handprints everywhere. But, it's a lot.
Do you wish you could have like a baby in a tube to detect the coronavirus?
That I wouldn't hurt, or that hat. Yeah, I think a lot of those things would help. I think that like another way it's similar to Death Stranding is that like at first I was like kind of worried about it, and then the more and more time I spent with it, I realized it's just incredibly boring and tedious. Yeah, like it's just really like like there was that first week or two where I was like, okay, I think we can all do this, and then 7 weeks in, I was like, I don't know about this one. And I think that's the same way I felt about Death Stranding, where I was like, it started out okay, and then the more and more I played it, the less excited I was about it. But I'm not here to dunk on the game. I think it is sort of poignant that that's where we sort of ended up, and it's also like the whole delivery person aspect now, like that is completely everything that people rely on, down to the exoskeletons that people are making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that popped up. There was a delivery man in China who was wearing an exoskeleton. I think we got a clip of it here. But there was that, and there was another one where, and I don't know if this was for real, this was kind of a touchy subject, but a dude was like, I made a capsule to keep my baby in. But yeah, here's the exoskeleton delivery person, which is, it's just Death Stranding. It's not even like... Yeah, well,
he looks a little bit Mega.
He's just talking.
He's kind of Mega Man, also. Mega Man.
Yeah, this isn't stuff that was made up for Death Stranding. Like Kojima's always been pretty good about sort of like cherry picking little bits of emergent technology and things that kind of exist. But it's weird to think about. Also, like this is not his first very strange game that's managed to be totally hitting the nail on the head. The other one that comes to mind is Metal Gear Solid 2, which people are usually like. This game is cockamamie wackadoo nonsense, but weirdly enough, it predicted information warfare and like the horrible signal to noise ratio we have with too much social media to even figure out what's actually true. But here's our third 9/11 of the show. But that originally Metal Gear Solid 2 ended with Arsenal gear crashing into downtown Manhattan, and they were like almost done with that game, and then 9/11 happened. They were like, we should probably change that. I was digging into this, and there was actually earlier on in production with MGS2, the plot of the game revolved around nuclear inspections in the Middle East. And then they were like, maybe that's too real. We shouldn't touch that. And then that wound up being a whole conversation. So, but yeah, Death Stranding. It seemed like total surreal garbage, and then it wound up being real. And now who's laughing, huh? None of us.
I think that Pooh Bear in the background is laughing. God, look at that. So anyway, we got some really bizarre news this afternoon. Hollywood Reporter is stating that Tamura Morrison, who played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, aka Boba Fett's father, is returning to play Boba Fett in the Mandalorian TV show season 2. This is not super surprising because it's kind of like we've all been waiting for that sort of other shoe to drop in terms of a TV show that takes place 3 years after Return of the Jedi, that stars a Mandalorian that looks like Boba Fett, who hangs out with other Mandalorians that look like Boba Fett. We're all expecting him to crawl out of the Sarlacc pit at some point, but I'm a little surprised that this news just got out there. Max, you're probably the biggest Boba Fett fan I will ever know in my entire life, and I'm kind of happy that I don't know more. But how do you feel about this? So
there's that tidbit at the end of the episode, The Gunslinger, where you see somebody walk up to what's her face from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., like one of the Monster of the Week characters, bounty hunters, and it has sort of like a jingling to the walk, and everyone's like, oh, it could be anybody, it could be Boba Fett, and everyone's like, no, it's probably Boba Fett, and I'm like, the whole thing I love about The Mandalorian is that it.
He froze again. I can finish his sentence because I've known this man long enough. The thing that he loves about The Mandalorian is that it tells a story that isn't just iconic trilogy characters over and over and over. It moves the needle a little bit. It grabs a bunch of people that you've never really heard from before, and it focuses on them. And it also creates new characters, which is important in a galaxy that is apparently only like 16 people, and all of them are cousins and nephews or Palpatines.
Yeah. The best Mandalorian character is still Bill Burr's Boston bounty hunter. Like space
Boston.
I
love that. Yeah, no, he's great. But like the really surprising thing here is that like they kept Baby Yoda a secret forever. Like for so long, and then all of a sudden they just go, Tamura Morrison's coming back and he's gonna meet Boba Fett. And like that's such a bummer because it's like this is a show that was sort of to me predicated on like a lot of surprise. Like even if you look at the season finale, when you have what was that dude's name? The bad guy, Gideon, and he pulls out like a laser sword. Yeah,
the dark saber.
And it's like and then like you dig into it and there's like a whole history behind that thing. Like there's a bunch of like the IG-11 droid and stuff like that being Taika Waititi. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. Like I'm okay with with them tweeting out pictures of like concept art or Gamorrean guards or like here's a helmet or something like that. But like for this news just to get out, like it's kind of a bummer because people have been waiting 37 years to find out if Boba Fett crawls out of that Sarlacc pit, and they just tweeted it out. Like
that's a really weird thing to do. I mean, the fact that Tamura Morrison playing him is cool as hell because he went in, and as much as I don't like all the tweaks that happened in the original trilogy, replacing stormtrooper voices with Tamura Morrison's voice is like, oh, they would probably sound like that because some of them are clones. I hope they do something interesting with this. I hope they make it so that it's like this is misdirection and it's like a character shows up who everyone thinks is Boba Fett, but surprise, it's an imposter or something, or it's Jodo Cast, or I don't, they could do something really cool with it, but maybe revealing it in a headline is just sort of lazy and sloppy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Mike, did you like The Mandalorian?
I really did. I really liked The Mandalorian. I loved Jedi Fallen Order. I loved The Mandalorian, and that's all the Star Wars I loved last year.
Me too. What a great year for Star Wars for those two things.
Those two things were great Great Star Wars, those two.
Great two things there were. Hopefully they make another movie someday. And then that was it. And that's the movie those are the ones. Max, you have a bunch of photos of here he is. That face is Max's Rise of the Skywalker review. It's like he's smiling because he thinks he might like it, but deep inside his brain's going, "Oh no!"
No.
I think my favorite thing about that movie, Mike, was you and me were texting afterwards, and you were like, "Palpatine made a logo."
Yeah, the Final Order has like a logo. That means in a new costume uniform design, so we had to approve things. Like people were like, "Hey, what about this?" And he was like, "Can we like redo it so it pops a little more?" Like they had to go through a whole thing, and they had to get insane? Obviously, it's insane. None of it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it was a very bad film. Max was supposed to show me a bunch of photos of a Harry Potter Lego set, and then have me explain what's happening because I've only seen the first of those movies, and I was like top 5 drunk, and so I don't know anything that happens afterwards aside from like here's my history of Harry Potter. I've seen the first movie. I've seen the video of the guy driving by the bookstore yelling Snape kills Dumbledore, and I've seen like the problematic J.K. Rowling tweets. That's it. That's all of it. Yeah, that's my whole history.
No, that's pretty much
And then there's also like I see pictures of people at Universal being like butterbeer, and I'm like, what?
That's one of my favorite things. I really want to do this proper. Like I would love to do this segment, but I feel like it's just not going to work because everything is broken and I cannot do the computer today.
Okay, well we'll try it another time.
You want to try it, or you want to try it on fuck it. Okay, let's do it.
Here's the thing, Max.
Right.
I can tell you what I'm not doing this weekend. I'm not watching 11 Harry Potter movies, so we're good. We can hold this for a week. Mike, you're one of my favorite friends in the world, and one thing I know about you is that you have and have always had a large collection of weird shit.
Yep.
You like many of us, me included, buy garbage to fill the hole in your heart of depression, and it doesn't work, but you keep buying it because you feel something in the process. And I know you collect a lot of weird things. I remember when you worked at IGN, you had basically an entire desk full of stuff that you got at like a Nintendo yard sale back when you worked at Nintendo. Yeah, and I love you for that. So I was wondering if you had any strange sort of oddities or curiosities in your home right now that you could show us off.
This feels like a cooking segment where I'm like, well, I do. First of all, let me see what I can grab. First of all, okay, so I collect novelizations of video games. So
oh my god,
I have Doom,
dude. Yes,
the novelization of Doom, and then I don't know if you remember this, but there was a series when we were kids called Worlds of Power, and it was scholastic novelizations of games. So I have the novelization of Mega Man 2.
I had that book.
Metal Gear, where the main character's name is Justin.
Yep. Justin.
Ninja Gaiden.
I had that one too.
Before Shadowgate, which no one cares. Bionic Commando. Not Fighting one. Hitler. Castlevania 2.
Oh, that was an awesome one.
More. I also have, let's see.
I remember when the Scholastic Book Fair would come, we would get those like papers. It's just like this really soft, big sort of newspaper full of colorful pictures of books. And I would always go for the World of Power books because I was like, I don't want to read. I like video games. And they'd be like, well, here you go, you little shit.
I was rereading the Mega Man one recently because I'm single. And it starts with Mega Man getting a message on his pager from Dr. Light. So in the future, Mega Man has a beeper. So it's good. I also have, this is not a video, I thought you would like this, Family Matters, the Lean Mean Urkel Machine.
What is that about?
It is about Urkel learning how to fight because he's being bullied, and he wants to impress Laura. So,
that's amazing.
Check this out.
Max and I got really drunk at a bar in New York once, and we came up with an idea for a show that we never made called Oops, Did I View That? Which is basically us watching every episode of Family Matters. But then we thought it was kind of weird for like two white guys to dunk on that show for like 60 episodes, so we just walked away.
Right. So you just watch step by step instead.
Exactly.
He's frozen again.
I'm so happy. Yep. That's him at the end of Rise of Skywalker.
Oh man.
So is that a book you bought recently, or you've had that book since you were a kid?
The Urkel one I bought a few, I think 5 or 6 years ago. I was at some like a used bookstore, and they had like a section of weird, like a table that was just weird shit. And this was on there, so I bought this. I also bought a book from them called Cop Camp, and it's just a book about a kid going to cop camp.
What?
And yeah, he goes to cop camp. He's like a ruffian. He skips school, but they send him to cop camp, and he learns how to be a good kid.
I feel like I have to look up the cover of that book.
Cop camp. He's looking up at a helicopter.
That's kind of awesome. Cop camp book.
Cop camp book.
Oh man, yeah. I sound like an idiot. Okay, so none of the words I put in have yielded anything but terrifying photos. So I'm never going to Google that again.
In a different room. Oh wait, let me grab another thing I have. Here we go. So a couple of these things. All right. One is, I actually really love this. This is my Nintendo Comic System book.
Oh man.
That's
a hardbound book?
Hardbound book, which you can still find. It's like not too expensive, but it has comics like Captain N. It has some Metroid and Legend of Zelda stuff. It has this weird. There's this weird story about the Game Boy coming out, and like this kid has like a deadbeat dad, and Mario comes out of the Game Boy and gives him a friend.
I had like a few glasses of wine a couple years ago, and I went on eBay and I almost bought the entire run of those Game Boy comic books because the cover arts are awesome. I had no idea that they made a sort of compendium of all those. So it's got the Mario comics, Captain M, and Game Boy.
It has Zelda, Punch Out, Mario, Captain M, Zelda, Punch Out, Game Boy.
What's that called? I'm like 2 beers in, and I'm totally going to order that right now.
It's called The Best of the Nintendo Comic System.
Yeah, I'll buy that. That sounds wonderfully bad.
It's actually like when you read it, it also has that good from when we were kids like comic feel, where like comics kind of made no sense and they were clearly just selling you something, but now it's comforting because we're adults and we just remember being sold things. And the other things I wanted to show were a Dragon Ball Z role-playing game book that I actually played in high school.
Oh, Mike.
So I ran a Dragon Ball Z role-playing game in high school.
I love how you're like, Lego was too much work.
Then the Street Fighter role-playing game. The Street Fighter role-playing game. So
how does that work?
I've never actually played it. I've never actually played it. This book is in amazing condition, but I've never played it. But the art in it's pretty good, but it is a role-playing game.
Oh, yeah.
If we ever want to set up a Zoom role-playing game of Street Fighter, we actually probably could.
You know what's probably easier is just doing MMA, just fighting in the street. There's like the whole charm of a street fight is there's less rules and
no, it's all rules. It's all rules, all wrong. It's the opposite of Outback.
He froze again.
Oh man, I thought that joke just didn't land at all.
No, I mean maybe both.
Maybe both. It might have been both.
I really like the Wax Scoville running gag that we've created here tonight.
This is I'm so angry. I'm just so angry. This is
I think it makes for good TV. Honestly, This is what people want to see. Right, Mike?
It's like having narcolepsy.
What?
I was going to say, you write for a real television show. This is like a big hit nowadays, is when like the host freezes for 10, 20 minutes an episode.
Honestly, the host freezing for 10, 20 minutes would make our job so much easier on a 30-minute show. So, so much easier.
How have you been holding up in the whole quarantine? Like, I know it sucks ass and balls, but like, are you doing anything to like make yourself feel better at home? Are you making bread like everybody else? Or are you just like waiting for it to be over?
I mean, I'm okay. I've actually been weirdly working out a lot. I've dropped like 10 pounds, which is great. And yeah, been playing a lot of Beat Saber and Ring Fit, which again, when you live alone, no one can see you do that, so you can do that.
Do you live in a New York City apartment, right?
Yeah.
Do you have neighbors below you?
I do, but I think they're very old because I have expected to get complaints by now and I haven't. So, or COVID took them. I don't know. Yeah, they're old. I live in a building with a lot of old people.
That could happen. When I moved to New York City in 1999, for some inexplicable reason, I brought my power pad, and my neighbors did not like that at all. Like I had this downstairs neighbor who was just like livid, and I don't blame her because like me and my friends would come over and we'd get drunk and like try to beat like world-class track meet or whatever that game was called, which basically just involved, the only way to beat that game is to like get on your knees and bang with your hands on the pads as hard as possible, and it turns out that's bad noise. People don't like that.
But I feel like you lived what the commercial in the 80s was, where it's like an old lady's like, "Are you playing track and field?" And you're like, "No." Like you got to live that, except it was annoying.
Yeah, and she comes upstairs and she's like, "What are you eating? Marshmallows? Only lemon cereal allowed." And we're like, "Oh man!" And like a skateboarding dog,
right? And you open a bottle
dog flies in with it. Yeah. There's like a turtle with a cigarette comes in and he's got a samurai sword. He cuts her head off and he's like, "Screw you!"
Oh man.
Yeah, it's been a good time. Thank you for joining the show tonight, Mike. I really miss you. It's been weird to not like know the next time I'm going to be in New York City, like hanging out with people like you and my family and stuff like that, because it's scary out there.
Yeah.
You are the lead writer on Samantha Bee, which I think is like one of the most well-written and funniest and I would say important shows right now. And I think it's one of the shows that I think you have done a tremendous job of pivoting through this weird, bizarre garbage that we're dealing with right now in terms of making something that's sort of endearing. I think there was a lot of TV shows that were they were on the fence between like, should we just call it quits for a couple weeks? Or should we half-ass it? Or should we like really like lean into this and do everything we can to keep like distilling what this is and bringing a show to people? So thank you for doing that. Where can people watch that, and how can people watch that?
People can watch that. You can watch it 10:30 Wednesdays on TBS. They also replay it a fair amount, so if you just DVR it. They also put full episodes up on YouTube, so you can, the day after, if you didn't see it, you can catch it on YouTube. It's also on TBS's website. So there's plenty of places to see it. Please watch it if you want to. And if you don't like it, please don't let me know.
Yeah, do not leave a comment. Or actually what you can do is you can write it down on a piece of paper and walk downstairs to the bottom of your building and put it directly in the garbage. That's a good time. Even going to the garbage is scary now. Anyway, that was up at noon.
Yep.
Yeah. That was up at noon. Max is back. We're going to close.
Thanks
out
for
the show
covering for me,
now.
Mike. I don't know what this show would be if you weren't here. So
no, thank you for having me.
Max, I was telling Mike that I probably would have just closed my laptop and walked outside into the ocean.
Yeah, I might be doing that.
So go check out the Boss Fights book Kickstarter and support Mike. Help him finish his book. He's going to do it anyway, but it'll make his day if he looks down and you see those numbers go up a little bit. And go check out Samantha Bee show on TBS and also on YouTube. And you can also check out more of what Max and I do all week long on IGN.com. We do multiple shows every single week. We're on a show called News, Games, and More, which airs 4 to 5 p.m. every single day, live on IGN, YouTube, Mixer, and Twitch, as well as Podcast Beyond, which is dedicated to PlayStation, and Nintendo Voice Chat, which is dedicated to Xbox. Just kidding, seeing if you're paying attention. Anyway, that was up at noon, sort of, at 5, kind of. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We thought we were good at this, and suddenly we're not. Any last words, Max?
Well, you know, yeah, I got nothing.
I knew that naked gun bit was coming.
In solidarity of Max, I would like us all to have a moment of freezing. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good night. Happy weekend. Good night.